I'm Rachel, this is John, and we are your hosts of The For Show.
The For Show is a weekly YouTube show to help you be more for the people in your life because we believe that Jesus is for us. So last week, Arnie talked to us about looking for peace in crazy, pivotal life circumstances.
Yeah.
So, is there anything crazy going on in your life?
What isn't? I know. Just kidding. Yeah. It's not real. No. This is all pretend. Yeah, actually there were some changes in Daniel's work recently that's going to cause a lot of chaos in a very already chaotic season of our lives when it comes to his work.
Yeah.
And add on having a baby and smack dab in the middle of it. It's
having a baby in peak season.
Peak season.
It's going to be eventful.
It's going to be great. That's what we like to tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, but really, in all of that, and not knowing how any of that is going to work out, it kind of made me and Daniel come together and talk about how to be more intentional with our prayers, and basically how to make it through the season and navigate through everything that's going to be going on and come out better for it on the other side.
Great. Can't wait to see how that pans out.
I'll be sure to tell you.
Stay tuned.
I'll be sure to tell everyone how my life is going.
It's going to go great.
It's going to go great.
So today we're starting a new series called Love Thy Neighbor. Loving your neighbor is a pretty general concept, very easy to agree with without ever taking action. We want to explore the actions behind the concept. So we're going to throw it over to Harney.
Yep, but stay here because we have some reminders, some recaps, and a little reward. Rewarding you for watching. That's it. See you soon, I guess.
If you grew up going to church or were around at any, you've probably heard this phrase before, love thy neighbor. I mean, that's how I heard it growing up. It's a line that's actually stated by Jesus at a time when someone asked him, what's the greatest commandment? Now, everyone in Jesus' time believed that God had rules. He had things that he cared about, and if you followed those rules, then you would be blessed. Well, Jesus claimed to have a special connection with God, so someone asked Jesus, what's the most important rule? What's the most important to God if I was to only do one thing? And Jesus responded with these words that have resonated through history. You can go and read it in Matthew 22, as Matthew writes about this. Jesus said that you're supposed to love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and mind. He said that this is the first and the greatest commandment, and the second greatest, or the co-greatest commandment, is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. You want to know what God wants from you? He wants you to love God, and he wants you to love your neighbor in a very similar way. And neighbor is bigger than just the person that lives next door to you. It's an idea that means your fellow citizen, your community, the people who you come into contact with in everyday life. Jesus is saying, this is what's most important to God. Love thy neighbor. Now, more than likely, you've heard that before. In fact, this has been said and written and quoted so often that it's almost cliche. But if you stop and think about it, it's tougher than we think. Think about your actual neighbors, the people on your street. I'm pretty sure love your neighbor isn't the most natural thing that happens or comes to mind. How about gossip about your neighbor? I know I'm stepping on toes here. Or maybe post on Facebook or the Nextdoor app about your neighbors. Maybe something like, just a reminder about Section 5 of the HOA, judge your neighbor, ignore your neighbor. Those seem to come more naturally in our lives. Or how about work? Love your neighbor sounds really great until you spend a lot of time with people. Then it becomes more like compete with your neighbor. That seems to be more natural. Profit off of your neighbor. Then there's traffic. And love your neighbor goes out the window. It's more like yell at your neighbor, curse at your neighbor, cut off your neighbor, flip off your neighbor, right? And those are everyday life examples, just basic things. Let's think bigger. When we look at all of the need in the world, all of the hurt, all of the evil, because when we look out into a bigger picture of the world, that's when we see a lot of forget your neighbor, neglect your neighbor. I mean, this is the need that drives us to want to be a church that is for our neighbors. It drives things like be rich that we've done in the past. When we look out and see a lot of like abuse your neighbor and exploit your neighbor, all the stuff that keeps popping up in our news feeds and on Facebook, really we see a whole lot of hate your neighbor in our country and oppress your neighbor and kill your neighbor. And that has made this last year just completely gut-wrenching. I mean, it's one horrible instance of humanity's hatred against itself after another. Seeing all this play out on social media, watching YouTube videos over and over again, and in the aftermath of it all, the pain, the sorrow, and the fear, I mean, it's just heartbreaking. Blame your neighbor, yell at your neighbor, hit your neighbor, hurt your neighbor, rage against your neighbor, make war against your neighbor. And the point is, really, the more you think about it, the less cute Jesus' command sounds, the less, oh yeah, I've heard that before, it becomes. The more we think about it, the more profound this seems, the more revolutionary it feels, the more rare it becomes in our lives, and the more desperate for this we should really be. The more desperate we should be for this to get off the pages of scriptures and into our hearts and into our streets and into our cities. And I'm not saying this while pointing a finger at anybody. Don't get me wrong here. I'm pointing at me. The big confession here for me is that I want to love my neighbor, my fellow human being, better than I do currently. And I want to follow Jesus in this. But at the same time, I have to wonder why there is something in me that is so prone to putting something other than love in the blank in front of the statement of what I do to my neighbor. Is there anything that I can do to move and to ultimately stay in the place of loving my neighbor? So I want us to talk about how to move ourselves in the direction of loving our neighbors, how we can take others to that place with us, and how we can possibly stay there. And listen, I'm not an authority on this, but I do believe Jesus is. So I want to look at his example and the two things that I think the command love thy neighbor requires. Two things that I believe have the power to change our hearts and our neighborhoods, our workplaces, our communities, our cities, whatever. Number one is how we think, and number two is what we do. The first one requires us to embrace a way of thinking, and the second one requires us to commit to a way of acting. To help us get there, let me tell you a story. Many years ago, when my boys were young, my wife and I were approached by the parents of one of our teenagers while I was still a high school director. They knew that we rarely got away and wanted to offer us an inexpensive getaway at their lake house about an hour away on a private lake in Virginia. We were super grateful. They gave us a weekend, they texted us the code to get in and told us to have fun and act like it was our house. Well, this ended up being no ordinary lake house. When we showed up, it was a 6-bedroom, 3-story lake house. My regular house would have fit inside their secondary house. We were blown away. We weren't sure, but it had to be multiple millions of dollars for the house. I mean, the furniture, the whole package. It was a super fun weekend. But you better bet that we kept an eye on our 2 young tornado-esque boys. We treated that place extra special. And why? It wasn't ours. And it was very expensive. And the point to the story is this: when you realize the value of something, you take good care of it. And you know how valuable something is by what someone is willing to pay for it. These people have paid millions of dollars, by my estimation, for this incredible vacation home, so its value was incredibly high. And here's where I think our thinking could change if it hasn't already in huge ways. What about you? What about your neighbor? What is our value? And I think this idea has the power to change us if we let it. It has the power to take love thy neighbor off the page of a book and into our hearts and ultimately into our communities. Because Peter answers this question about value so clearly in one of his letters. Now the context is that he's encouraged a group of people to follow Jesus and this great command to love thy neighbor. And he says, you know what the driving force is going to be of that? It's this idea. For you know that God paid a ransom to save you from the empty life you inherited from your ancestors. You've been bought back, is the idea that Peter's painting, from being captive by God because of love. And then we start to wonder, how much we were worth. And he says, it was not paid with mere gold or silver, which lose their value. Gold and silver are good, but you were worth more than that. It was the precious blood of Christ, the sinless, spotless Lamb of God. You know how valuable something is by what someone is willing to pay for it. And the greatest price tag ever put on anything was put on your life. Before your grandma said you were great, or anyone else said that you were not, Jesus said you were worth trading his life for. You have no idea how valuable you are, and this is where it goes from warm and fuzzy to challenging. That's true of you, and it's true of the person next to you, your neighbor. Everyone is someone that God made and loves. We don't have to wonder their value. We don't get to decide their value. It's already been determined by God himself, and when you are holding something of immense value, you handle it with care. You stand a little in awe of it. You just automatically bring honor and dignity and respect to that thing. You protect it. And if it were to be mistreated, you would be upset. If someone was reckless with it, you'd step in and stop them because it's just too valuable. And I just wonder if we've grown numb to the immense value of human life. Are there just so many of us that we've forgotten the beauty and the glory and worth that stands in front of us and sits next to us and walks past us? Everyone is someone because of Jesus, and that should change how we see the people around us. Because, we might have frustrations, but we don't have feuds. That person that doesn't take care of their house the way that you think they should, they're someone God made and Jesus died for. So you might annoy me and I might not get you, but I'm not going to have a feud with you. I'm not going to write you off. I'm not going to ignore you or go to war with you. Because who am I to place a different price tag on you than God? It changes the way we show up in our workplace, because you may be getting in my way for my bottom line, or we may be competing to be the best against each other, but there's no way I'm going to belittle you or disrespect you or push you down to make myself bigger. Because after all, you're someone. It changes how we go through traffic. I know that sounds crazy. But it changes how we respond to people who annoy us or disrespect us or offend us. Because I want to give you a piece of my mind, but I'm just not sure I can bring myself to do anything because you're someone. And those are everyday life things, but I think this idea has the power to change the worst things in our world. I think it changes how we see need and we respond to need, whether homelessness or food scarcity with people. Because meeting your need might be out of my way and it may feel messy. And the way you appear or present yourself sometimes might make me feel uncomfortable, and I might not understand everything going on in your life, but you are someone. You are someone that God made and that Jesus died for. And I might not be sure how to fix it, but I'm appalled that someone as valuable as you would be in this position. It's this thought that makes all forms of racism and abuse and exploitation or the belittling of any class or category of people intolerable, because when we realize that they are someone, we begin to think, how could you? Or how could I? And it is this that has broken my heart and many of your hearts over this past year. At least I hope that it has. Because Dante Wright is someone. Rayshard Brooks was someone. George Floyd was someone. Ahmaud Arbery was someone. Breonna Taylor was someone. And that's just a few from the list that we know. And I see it, and my heart breaks, and I hope your heart goes, no, this can't be happening. What's it going to take? What do we have to do together to change this? Because that was someone. And I'm no expert, but I have to wonder if this might be the thing that could help break through our disunity, or at least breaks us out of the anger and the suspicion that amidst the justified, I'm so angry at you feelings, the I don't think that you'll ever get this or I'll ever get you ideas that we have, that we could look at these things and say, yeah, but you're still someone that God made and that Jesus died for. And who am I to try and change your price tag? So no, we can't just go our separate ways. We can't just go back to business as usual. We have to figure this out. And I think this one ethic is worth following Jesus for anyone. And by the way, if you are a Jesus follower, this is more than an ethic. This is a command to us. Jesus said, as I have loved you, so you love others. That's the kind of people we as Christ followers should be. That's what the church was meant to be. Whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, whether you are white, black, Asian, Latino, whether you're from this or that side of town, we need to be people who put the right price tag on people. We should be the people that wherever we go, we elevate the value of people. Like in actual neighborhoods, when everyone goes around gossiping about someone, we need to be the ones that stop it and add value to that person. In our workplaces, when everyone is backbiting and pulling each other down, we need to stop that from happening and add value to that person. When any issue is discussed or debated or whatever, we need to be the ones that say, wow, that is so really complicated and I may not have all the answers, but here's one thing I do know. Those people that we're talking about, they're valuable. So let me challenge you. What if in your next conversation about race, you decided to place a higher price tag on the lives involved than the position you hold? What if you did that? What if we became the everyone is someone people? Because God made them and Jesus loves them and died for them. And we should act accordingly and be for them as we learn to love thy neighbor.
Welcome back. Thank you for sticking around, like we asked you to do. It's very nice of you. John, it's very valuable. Ooh,
Yeah.
hey, value.
Hey.
John actually talked about value, seeing value in the people around us in our lives, our neighbors, if you will.
If you will.
Yes. Do you feel like that's something that you're good at, or?
I didn't used to be. I've always, up until the house I'm in now, I've always lived in like townhouses, so I've had like a surplus of
Just too many people to
just
see value
a lot of neighbors, and just kind of took it for granted. But living in the house that we live in now, and getting to know Becky and Lori, who are the people who live right across the street from us, they have just really been for us and have shown us like the value in having somebody else in your corner, and someone else who's for you, and in return we're for them a lot of times, and we just try to outpour each other.
Like a war.
A for war.
Yeah.
We just try to
TM.
Trademark. We just try to outpour each other, and I think
great.
I mean they bring so much value to our life that I tell Tiffany all the time, like, if we came home and there was a for sale sign in their yard,
Devastation.
it would be pretty big bummer.
Aw.
And it would, but it hasn't happened. So yeah, it's good.
That is pretty good. It's nice to have nice neighbors like that.
Yeah.
But talking about being for people, our circles, they're going on right now. Circle.
We'll put it in a.
And circle gets the square.
We'll put it in a little animated.
Yeah, like no.
Okay.
You just wasted an arm movement.
It's the Disney Channel. Sorry, back on track. Circles.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. Yeah, we don't get paid for this.
Circles are still going on.
Yeah. Now the couple circles closed because we're doing our study. It's 10 whole weeks.
Can't go in there
Can't go.
unless you're already signed up.
Because I will literally not let you in my
Get
house. You're late. Moving on. But
it's
the women's circle is still going.
Women's circle still open.
Sundays 6:30 to 8 at
So-
Coffee Hub in Beaver Creek.
If you're a
Join
woman, you can do that.
Yeah, bring a friend.
Coffee Hub, 6:30 p.m.
Yep. And then the
Sundays.
dudes, the men's circle,
Dudes, yeah.
also at 6:30, but on a Friday.
Yep, we have done everything from taking apart appliances to eating brisket
Ooh,
and doing all those things while talking about,
dude stuff.
talking about just stuff. you
Dude
know,
stuff.
Stuff going on in our
Yeah.
lives and stuff, so yeah, stuff.
With events, we're doing it a little different. It's not like a planned event for you to show up to with us
Yep.
or for Bridge Church. This is like you are the event.
Calling all event planners.
Yeah, me.
Yeah, we want you guys to be the event, is
Yeah.
what we're saying. So,
Create the event yourself.
whether it's you being for your neighbors by having your neighbors over, or for your friends and having your friends over.
Yeah.
Or-
Memorial Day is a good weekend to do that.
Yep, Memorial Day is the weekend we're asking you guys to just be the event. And
You guys doing anything you want to invite us to?
you guys could invite us
You
to it.
could invite me.
Yeah.
I don't want to invite you. You invite me.
But
See
yeah,
value in me and invite me.
so get your grills out, get your cornhole boards out, whatever is an event for you,
Yeah,
and do
that
it.
sounds like a lot of fun.
Sounds eventful.
It's Whew. And you can find all of that information, not that little one-liner, but all that information is on bridgedayton.com and on the Church Center app.
Yeah.
And that's where you can also do your giving, because your giving keeps us giving, and maybe we'll be in like a war, but with giving.
Well, what are we giving?
A reward. I was like, is that did I miss some of the notes? I don't know. It's definitely a reward.
Yeah.
This one's fun though, because it's a $20 gift card to the Butter Cafe.
Butter Cafe,
Butter.
which is on Brown Street.
Yeah, I've only been there once,
Yeah.
but it's the cutest little place.
I've never been there, but I'm sure it's
And
delicious.
from what I remember, it was very good. We went for brunch, so I don't know about. I thought it was good for brunch. It's
Well,
very nice
with a
little
name like Butter Cafe,
brunch. Yeah, you can't go wrong with butter.
it's got to be good.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
a $20 gift card, so that'll probably get you pretty far.
That's a lot of butter.
That's a little butter. But this week, or last week, we tagged our teachers. This week, we're going to tag our nurses.
Yeah.
And boy, do they deserve it.
Yep.
Just the past year and a half now, almost. Year.
Have they been through a lot, or?
Maybe just a little. A little extra overtime here and there. Just when they need it. Just when they need it. But, so yeah, tag a nurse, or if you are a nurse, do your little hands up emoji.
Yep.
Pick me. And enter yourself if you want to do it that way, or tag your little nursey friends, because you know they all deserve it. Your
Little
nursey.
nursey friend.
Well, you
Little
know.
nursey friend.
Little nursey nurse.
Yeah.
Everybody knows a nurse. I don't know who doesn't know a nurse. You tried to get away with it and it didn't work. You pointed them out.
I do know a nurse.
You just didn't know they were nurses, maybe.
Yeah. So.
But we'll choose a winner on Wednesday, like usual. So tag them starting on Sunday.
Yep. Starting on Sunday, you can tag a nurse or
be a nurse.
Yeah, or
Tag
just be a nurse.
Yeah, or like it. Whatever. Moving on.
Yeah, so before you go, make sure you click like and subscribe, and just be for someone in your life by sharing this video with them. And like I say every week, if you have missed any of our other videos, you can go back and you can watch those. So yeah, go be for someone
Do it.
this week.
Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Before someone on Memorial Day.
Be for someone.
Before. Okay, bye. Okay, see ya.
That was a silly goose time.
That was.
Get out of here.
See?
Come on, Rachel, I did so good that time. Welcome back, John talked about.